At Five Star Bank, community is at the heart of what we do. Every day we strive to have thoughtful solutions for our customers and help our communities prosper. Honest dialogue about the issues affecting the region is vitally important to that prosperity. We are proud to be part of the conversation and hope you'll join in.
There are few places in this region you can travel without bumping into one of developer Larry Kelley's projects. And they share a few common themes: large, complicated, and highly visible within our region. Now Larry's son Denton Kelley has joined him to take on what might be their most important project yet, the Sacramento Railyards. It is one of the nation's largest infill sites, and Larry and Denton join us today to talk about their vision and perspective on the region. Larry, this project has bedeviled developers for decades. Why take it on now?
Well, I think its timing is right. I mean, first of all, I think a lot of the issues are coming to a point where they can be resolved, and I think the market is turning. And I think with all the infrastructure that's been installed, the transportation infrastructure, certainly the building of the new downtown arena, all of these things coming together, along with the demographics. I mean, you know, the demographics being the history that's already happened, the young millennials, the people that want to live downtown, the opportunity to live, work, as well as use the infrastructure that's there that we talked about for entertainment, transportation. It's all coming together at the right time, and I think it's really more or less fortuitous, not only for us, but for the city, that we have this opportunity to bring all these things together and I think really make it into a very successful development and really change the whole character of downtown Sacramento.
Denton, you represent the demographics of the emerging region, and there's been a lot of discussion on how we can keep people who were born and raised here in the region and also attract other folks in order to build a vibrant economy and just a vibrant region in general. What needs to happen, not just with the Railyards, but within the region in order to make that a reality?
Sure, I think specifically within the Railyards, one of the most important things is to create a dynamic experience that attracts the millennials in that generation. And granted, we're going to market to a much broader set of users and demographics, but ultimately, the first phase of residential development occupancy really is going to lend itself to millennials. So then you have to ask yourself, what are those amenities? What is it that they desire? What is it they yearn for? And I think if you look at kind of the consumer trends, it kind of lends towards they want things that are authentic. They want things that they can relate to. They want things that are local. They want things that have a low impact on the environment. And all those things point to urban development, urban experience. And so within the Railyards, you say, well, what components of those can we deliver on? And I would say all. But what's unique is when you start talking about the authentic component, something they can relate to, something that lacks banality and has originality to it, the historic elements, the historic shops, the historic buildings, they are what they are. We will do what we can to renovate, to innovate those and bring them forward for a lasting result. But ultimately, I think those are really the differentiating, those will be the differentiating aspect of that project that will attract. As far as the region as a whole, I think from an economic development perspective, we have to look more broadly than we have to date. You know, we were more of a government town many years ago. We've become less so. Healthcare is a very predominant portion of our economy and should be, and it will continue to grow. But we have to find ways to find other industry to attract industry. How can we become? I know as our mayor said, the most business-friendly place to do business in California. And I think that's very important.
So ultimately, if the Railyards, if we're projecting out 20 years, what will the Railyards look like in terms of its mix?
Sure.
You know, I think there's a whole variety of things that are, you know, when you talk about a project of this scale and the time frame you're going to be working over, I mean, it's not a 3-year or a 5-year, even a 10-year project. There's going to be some changes, but I'd say what I would envision today is it is going to have all those elements. It's going to have the housing, it's going to have the shopping, it's going to have the jobs, it's going to have the entertainment, and I think all these things will come together. Now, exactly what the form and structure is going to be, I think it may have more than one form or structure over this lifespan and development period, just like any other city, any other urban environment. I mean, they take place over a long period of time. There's differences of architecture, and I think that creates a nice contrast. I mean, we don't want it to be just one style or one type of building. So I think you'll see some residential units that will be of one form today, and I think over the 20-year period of time, you could see, something slightly different.
A little bit of an evolvement.
Yes.
Over time.
I think to speak specifically to maybe some of the architecture, we obviously have these wonderful historic assets that we have the responsibility to restore, and those you will largely leave in place, the historical elements, but I think what will make for a more interesting outcome is having a contrast of more modern architecture with historical architecture of the 19th century, and that rich contrast. And we found that in Sacramento as an example with the Crocker Art Museum. They achieved that nice stark contrast between old and new, and kind of looking forward and what delivers a lasting architectural result. And I think that's something that'll be very important, delivering on the vision, and something we're focused on.
Now, there are a couple things that have been talked about for the Railyards, and you all may or may not be at liberty to comment on them, but everything from a World Food Center to a new healthcare facility to professional soccer. Are all those things in the mix potentially?
We'd certainly like them to be. I don't think we can say with certainty that they're all going to be there or that none of them will be there, but we certainly are looking at
a lot of people have aspirations for your land.
Yes, yeah. a lot, and certainly one right here. Yeah,
but I think, we're very optimistic about, all of those things. And I think they play into what we talked about earlier, the live, work, play, entertain, the whole environment being created there. And I think one of the things that we take very seriously, and it's a responsibility as much as an opportunity, is attempting and working very hard to bring, jobs, good paying jobs that the millennials and others would like to have in that area. And I think this is a marketing effort that we're going to really be earnestly and very stubbornly pursuing, because it's critical to making it a success. So anything that brings jobs, people that don't have jobs don't buy houses.
True.
That's
or
true.
rent apartments.
So we have to work on that for our whole community, and I think it's a big responsibility, and we're going to take it very seriously and work very, very hard to bring those jobs here.
But I think it's also a question of business strategy, and if the business strategy was, well, we just hope the housing comes up organically and the jobs and the retail will follow, I think that's probably a failed concept. And so, as he says, we are stubbornly focused on delivering the jobs that will generate the demand for the housing, which will generate the demand for the retail. And it's really that sequence, right? And so we certainly have high aspirations for some of the users and uses that you mentioned. And I think that if nothing else, what we can say is that all those uses have a common thread that tie them together. And whether it's food, whether it's the healthcare, whether it's agriculture, whether it's MLS, whether it's these historical buildings that'll kind of form the urban cultural center for that project. It's all about food, health, lifestyle, right? That's the thread that ties it all together in a community. Right.
And just full disclosure, as the lead developer for Township 9, which is right close by, you guys are both ally and sort of fellow praiser of trying to create this urban experience.
Absolutely.
So I at least have to say that we're happy for the fact that you guys are moving this thing forward. But I'm curious. For so long, many in the development community completely wrote off Sacramento, the city of Sacramento, saying it was so unfriendly a place to do business that it was a business risk just to be involved with it. You all have taken a big bet. It's not the first one that you've taken, but what's changed in Sacramento proper?
Well, from my perspective, our mayor. I think I give credit to our mayor for doing a tremendous job of changing the perception of doing business as well as the reality of doing business in Sacramento. And I think It is very important. If we're going to attract business, we have to be perceived as a very business-friendly place. I mean, we all read the stories every day about the exodus of businesses or individuals with wealth leaving the state. We still have, I think, one of the best places in the world to live. We have one of the best places in the world for workers to work. What we have to do is empower the businesses to do business here and help them. And I think that Mayor Johnson has done just a tremendous job of getting that message out and the philosophy that he's operated with. I mean, you see it with the new arena downtown. You know, I mean, oftentimes government is just so driven by process, they forget what's really important is the product. And I think that, you know, we need to have more people in government and in business that are working together. And you know, we've enjoyed this relationship on McClellan with the county, that working together we accomplish a lot more than we do individually. That was a basic premise of McClellan, that the strength of the county being the entitlements and some of the other things that they brought to the table, along with the entrepreneurial creativity and the ability to bring capital and private capital, is very powerful. I think that same kind of partnership in downtown Sacramento, working with the city, can be an unbelievably powerful tool to creating jobs and bringing businesses here.
What attracts you to these big, complicated projects?
Probably a lack of intelligence, but you know, I wouldn't say that I just look for hard things to do. That's certainly not the case. It's opportunistic. I mean, I think that you know, when you look at McClellan, everybody said, you know, it's, you know, the environmental problems, this, that, the other. Everybody was kind of turned off by it. Well, that creates an opportunity in pricing, an opportunity in competition. And I think that, again, structuring the right transaction with the county is extremely important. We would have never been successful without the kind of transaction that we were able to develop. We're, again, relying upon each other's strengths and coming up with a formula that accomplished what the county wanted: jobs, tax base, et cetera. And for us, an opportunity to get in, you know, create some value and make some money, because that's what entrepreneurs do.
What first got you into development in the first place? Is this what you expected to be doing when you were 18 years old?
No. No, not at all. I was brought up in an Air Force family, had no idea or concept of really anything about business. Thought I would grow up and be like my father, be a pilot in the Air Force, and circumstance didn't work out. I had asthma, so I couldn't get a commission, couldn't be a pilot, so I had to figure out what I was going to be with the rest of my life. I started off in engineering and figured out real quickly that I didn't just want to be an engineer. I wanted to be, you know, running the place, and to do that I had to do other things. So that's where I started, and then real estate just sort of became the logical.
Was there one big break, or was it sort of just an event?
I think it was sort of a series of things, and then you know, worked in the industry for a while, and then created my you know, a track record and experience that allowed me to move on.
And Denton, you were in financial services.
True.
So you started out there, and then you came back to work with your father. What drew you back? I mean,
Sure.
You were doing the Masters of the Universe kind of thing.
Yeah, I decided I didn't want to be Master of the Universe. So, no, ultimately, I worked in investment banking for a few years. I worked in a hedge fund as an analyst for a few years. Enjoyed those experiences immensely. They're ultimately invaluable, I think, to my professional trajectory and career. But I also recognized I think I wanted to do something that was a bit more tangible, that I could touch, I could feel, I could see actually the progress, the fruits of our labor kind of concept, versus just shuffling dollars around and trading securities. So that something that initially intrigued me. After about 6 years, I just decided it was a lifestyle I didn't want. It was a career I no longer wanted to pursue. And my dad had assembled a great executive team that to date, you know, collectively on average, they've probably each been with him for 15 plus years. And so I saw a great...
I guess you must be a nicer guy than your rep, huh?
Well, you know, I think I've just been very fortunate to really get some people that can tolerate me.
Yeah, and I think, you know, that was a big part of it. You know, I think there's a saying that familiarity breeds contempt, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was very important for me to go out on my own and discover the world and learn from other people, and have third-party mentors in the professional world, not just my father. Mm-hmm. And no knock, he's been a great mentor since I've been home, but I just think it's very important for people at that young age to get advice and guidance and mentorship from third parties that aren't your family. So you can kind of learn the real world for yourself. And then when you do come back and you do get advice and you are listening to your father, whoever your mentor may be in your family, there's a different level of respect. You respect what they say because you know it to be true.
What did you learn while you were away?
What did I learn while I was away?
That you might not have appreciated before you did step out into a third-party experience.
You know, I think I just learned that when I came home, I had an infinite amount more respect for my father's wisdom and his judgment. I wasn't a son reflexively reacting to dad's advice, which most sons do, or daughters, if you will. And I was able to, from my other experiences, I think just have a much better respect for his judgment and his wisdom, and so that we working together going forward was a much healthier relationship, perhaps, than it would have otherwise been if I had just stepped out of college and come to work for him. But I think that the biggest thing I learned was I didn't want to be in a business of one, service per se, and two, of just kind of shuffling intangible securities around a computer screen.
You wanted to build something.
I wanted to build something. Yeah. I wanted to see what we were doing. If it's something we can own forever, great. If it's something that has a lasting impact on the community, even better. If there's a legacy component to it, wonderful. But it was really just being able to build something and actually be a part of that, be a part of the design, be a part of all the negotiations with the stakeholders, and then one day look at it and say, we did that.
Mm. What have you learned from your son since he's been back?
Well, I think there's a variety of things, but I'd start with the fact that I think it's really important that he did go off on his own. I didn't want him to come in as an heir apparent or whatever, because I think it's really important for you, for even in an organization, to have new blood come in, and for a young person to come into a family business right off the bat, I think is tough. I think you go out, you create your own successes. That's really important. I mean, it validates a lot of things for you individually, and then what he brought, I think, was as much as an engineering background as I have, and some pragmatism. I think that the analytics that he brought from the investment banking, and that was very good. I think it was good discipline and very good training to just getting into the details and looking at the all the variables and analyzing them and putting them into perspective. So I think he brought a really good discipline there. Plus, I think the other thing I learned, I think that by him going off and doing this, he came back with a perspective that was a little bit more global than mine.
Interesting.
I've been here now for 25, 26 years, and I think you get focused on what you've been doing and what your current environment is, and you don't look outside of it. So I think somebody coming, having lived in San Francisco and New York, and having been in this environment with all these very, very bright people that are looking at the whole world, he brought a different perspective, and I think that was really important for us. And I recognize at my age that things are changing, and I think that having somebody that's younger, that's looking at their contemporaries, what they like, what their family entertainment is, how their lifestyles are different than mine. It's very helpful. I think it provides a really good perspective on the marketplace that I think within our organization we have to have that kind of perspective.
Sure.
I was going to say, just in addition to that, you'd asked what I'd learned. I think one of the most valuable things I learned in that process was just quick decision making, analytics, right? Being able to work yourself through a problem-solving situation very quickly. Is this a good investment? Is this a bad investment? Is this a good design outcome? What are the total economic impacts of taking this design path versus that? And we all know that development is something that requires a paralleling of efforts and problem solving. And that also, if you're going to be paralleling problem solving paths, you have to be making decisions quickly and thoughtfully, recognizing you're not always going to be right, but you have to make a decision. And so I think that was really important for me, living in that world, that I came back with a confidence and an ability to analyze and make decisions based on that analysis quickly, thoughtfully, and effectively. And that's been essential, I think, for most of the projects we've done to date and for the projects that we have going forward.
So it sounds like you've brought to a very fine 20th century organization, 21st century kind of analytics and discipline.
Sure, sure.
Would you buy that?
Yeah, I think so. And again, the rest of the team that we have is, extremely competent.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've got, like I said, you're never any better than the people you got working with you. And we're very fortunate. We've got people that have been with us a long time. They're extremely bright. They're very good in their fields. I think the best. And, that gives us the ability, I think, to execute on these complicated projects you're talking about. There's no way that even though I get, labeled with it, they're not just me. I mean, I'm sort of the symphony conductor. I've got, really good people in first violin and the brass and everywhere else.
Sure.
They're all doing a great job.
Well, as you both look at the region and you look at what has been accomplished in the last couple of years, if there was a big thing that this region could tackle that would really advance it, maybe one or two, what would they be? And they don't have to be development related, just anything. Did you say, that would really improve this region?
I think one is a sense of corporate and industry identity, right? I think we've all recognized that there's been a struggle to, as a community, identify who do we want to be going forward? What's going to take us to the next step, make us more of a gateway city, right? And there's been a lot of discussion around that, and I think there's been some results from that discussion that we have this industry in our backyard of food and ag that we just have to find a way to better leverage that in our community. And how do we do that? And there's been a lot of discussion around that, and you'd mentioned this concept of the World Food Center. It's a great concept. Ultimately, you need a magnet, right? That creates a value proposition to where industry wants to cluster, right? And we don't have that. And so I think that's going to be a discussion that goes on for a while in this community. And I'd really love to think that that's going to result in some aggregation of that industry that's currently disparately located throughout the country, throughout California. We are the largest agricultural economy in the U.S. and there's no reason we shouldn't be able to find a way to better leverage that and the capital.
Make a capsule around that. What do you think, Larry?
Well, I mean, there's no question this is really important. I mean, no matter which, major metropolitan area in the country you look at, Houston's energy, New York's finance, the Bay Area's tech, and we're much smaller in every respect. But I think, the agriculture is one of the things that, if you look, even go back to the history of the rail yards, what were we shipping back east?
Agriculture.
Yeah, produce.
It was produce.
What was my place? Cannery.
Yeah. So I mean,
yeah.
I think there's some logic to to history, right? I mean, the lessons of history are very important. I think we still have that. I think we ought to work on it. I think we've got UC Davis, which is the preeminent university in agriculture in the country, maybe the world, right? Why not leverage that? Why not try to tie that into something? We hope it lands in the rail yards.
What do you think is our biggest challenge in getting there?
Well, I think there's a number of them. First of all, it doesn't move fast. It's a university. There's their processes they've got to go through. They're part of the state budget, government, et cetera. So we have to work through all those things. But I think, I've always believed that will is the most important aspect of getting anything done. So if we will it and we work hard at it with dogged determination, we will get there. And that's what we're going to do. We want to work with the chancellor. We want to work with the university to see what we can do to make that happen. But I think also industry. If we can get to the right industries, whether it's the fertilizer industry, the seed, the the distribution, the production, all of that. I mean, you look at it here, we've got, all the associations for the growers, the cooperatives, et cetera. If we can get all those people coalesced and make them work together,
that really could be something.
It really could.
In our final moments, Den,
sure.
I just wanted to ask you, just very succinctly, what should we expect to see next at the Railyards?
Next would be most likely we're going to start our first housing project south of the rail tracks. So there will be an affordable housing project, and that's really the next what you see physically.
And regarding the soccer stadium, when can we expect to see a puff of smoke, regardless of what color it is?
We hope to hear something over the next few to 6 months that would be affirmative of actually having.
We're optimistic. We think we're getting really close on that.
All right, and we're going to leave it there, gentlemen. Thank you both.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Much success to you both.
Thank you very much, Scott.
And that's our show. Thanks to our guests, and thanks to you for watching Studio Sacramento. I'm Scott Syfax. See you next time right here on KVIE.
At Five Star Bank, community is at the heart of what we do. Every day we strive to have thoughtful solutions for our customers and help our communities prosper. Honest dialogue about the issues affecting the region is vitally important to that prosperity. We are proud to be part of the conversation and hope you'll join in.
All episodes of Studio Sacramento, along with other KVIE programs, are available to watch online at kvie.org/video.